Hello, my name is Laura and welcome to English for Lake Atitlán restaurant servers. Today I have invited my daughter Sarah, who works at a popular restaurant here in Massachusetts, to give some tips about how to be a good restaurant server. Hi Sarah, thanks so much for coming today.
You're welcome.
So Sarah, tip number 1 is about the server's physical appearance and personal hygiene. What might be some things included here, or some tips that you could give?
Well, first off, I would say that it's important to look presentable with your hair washed and up out of your face. Your hands should be washed frequently to be hygienic, and your fingernails should be cleaned and trimmed. Also, your uniform should be tidy and washed, complete with an apron, a notepad, and a pen.
Okay, great, thank you. And tip 2 says that the server should greet the customers when they arrive at the restaurant, and that the server should also say his or her name. So what might be some things, some ways to introduce yourself, Sarah, to customers?
Well, the first thing that I do is greet the customer saying, "Hello, how are you doing?" Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. And I also say, "Hello, my name is Sarah, and I'll be your server today."
Okay, great. Tip 3 says that the server should give customers the menu as soon as they are sitting down at the table. So that might be also a time where you might tell customers about any specials, right?
Yes, that's correct. Usually when they sit down, we inform the customer about the soup of the day, such as our soup of the day is potato and leek, or the fish of the day is tuna.
Okay. So tip 4 says that before taking the food order, the server should ask the customers if they would like something to drink. You could say something like, "Would you like something to drink?" So tip number 5 says that when you bring the drinks, you can see if your customers are ready to order. So you might ask them, "Are you ready to order?" Or, "Can I take your order? Do you need more time?" That's right?
That's correct.
Okay. And tip 6 says that before taking the food order, you should ask the customers if they have any questions about the menu. So what might be some questions that you have heard people ask about the menu?
Well, for example, a customer might ask, "How is the sauce made?" Or, "Are there nuts in it?" Or, "Does it have meat in it?"
Okay. Right, because some people don't eat meat, they're vegetarians.
Exactly.
Okay. Or they might ask about if it's spicy.
That's correct as well.
Okay. So if you don't know the answer to any of these questions, then you should go and ask the cook, and then tell your answers, your customers, the correct information.
Yes.
Okay.
That is true.
Okay. So tip 7 says that you may need to make a recommendation if your customer asks. I know sometimes when I go to a restaurant, I might ask the server, "What do you recommend?" Or, "Do you have any recommendations?" So what might be some things that you would recommend from the menu at your restaurant, Sarah?
Well, a lot of times customers come in asking what our most popular menu items are. Usually I recommend our burgers, which are delicious, or I tell the customer if there's something on the special menu of the specials that we have for the week, that they should order off of that because it changes every week.
Right. Okay. And then tip number 8 says that you must ask your customers if they have a food allergy or a dietary restriction. So why is this important, and how do you do it at the restaurant where you work?
Well, asking about food allergies and dietary restrictions is important because people can get really sick or even end up in the hospital. This not only is important because of what is in the meal, but as well as if it's cooked on the same surface.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if someone is allergic to nuts, it shouldn't come in contact with things that have touch nuts.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. So you might say something like, does anyone have a food allergy or a dietary restriction? Is that true?
That's correct.
Yeah. And you might ask, are you allergic to nuts?
Right.
Because this sauce is made with nuts. Something like that?
Yes.
Okay. What are some common, working in the restaurant, what are some common allergies that people have, or maybe dietary restrictions?
Well, usually the most common dietary restrictions or allergies are wheat, dairy, nuts, eggs, tomatoes, and fish.
Okay. So tip 9 says that after you bring the food order to the table, you should wait 2 or 3 minutes and then ask your customers if they're satisfied with the food.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So what might be some things that you would say when you're checking in with your customers?
Usually you can say things like, is everything okay? How is everything? Can I get you anything else? Or did everything come out all right?
Okay. Tip 10 says that after your customers have finished eating, you should ask them, are you finished? Are you done? Can I take your plate?
Yes.
Right?
That's correct.
Okay. And then tip 11 says that after the dirty dishes are cleared from the table, you should ask your customers if they want dessert and coffee or tea.
That is correct as well.
Okay.
It's always good to make sure that your customer is satisfied.
Okay.
Oh God.
Okay. So what might you say then, or ask them at that point?
Well, after you've cleared all the dirty dishes and they have a clean surface so they're not sitting with empty plates, it's important to ask things like, would you like some dessert? Or would you like coffee or tea? Or just simply, is there anything else I can get you?
Okay. And last but not least, tip number 12 says that when your customers ask for the bill, bring it to them and ask them, would you like me to split the bill? Right? This is very common with groups of people, right? Or maybe, do you need any change? Right? And remember, of course, depending where you work, you may have to explain that you do not accept credit cards. So before your customers leave, what might be some things that you say to say goodbye to them?
Well, you can say things, for example, like, I hope you come again, have a good day, have a good evening, or if they're there on vacation, enjoy the rest of your vacation.
Nice. Okay, yeah. You could always say too, thanks for coming to our restaurant.
That's correct, yeah.
Excellent. Well, I hope that you have enjoyed this lesson and all of the fantastic tips that my daughter has given you about how to be a good restaurant server.
Thank you for having me.